Hello. Today I'll be doing a video on Longshot, the board game. I know there's a new version that came out recently called Longshot the Dice Game or something like that. I have not played that. This is the board game, which, gosh, I don't know. I think it came out, I don't know, a long time ago, 2009. I can't remember. I've had it a long time. Anyway, I played this with my friend and wife and youngest daughter a couple weeks ago, and just thought I'd do a quick video on how to set up and play Longshot. So let's get started with how to set up. As usual, the first thing you'll do is unfold the game board and place that in the play area in the center amongst all the players. Next, you'll choose one player to be the banker, and you'll hand them all the money. I did want to mention that this game did not come with these 50s. I think I found on Board Game Geek a file where I could print these 50s out because actually you need 50s. I don't know why the game didn't come with any. But anyway, so these are printed out, as you can kind of tell, but the 20s, 10s, and 5s do come with the game. Next, you'll put your horses on the start line, which is on that white bar there, and put them in order, numbered 1 through 10, with the 1 on the inner most ring and the 10 on the outermost ring. Next, you'll stack your betting chips, normally with the player being the banker. They'll handle the betting chips also. Then you'll place all your horse cards in a line somewhere near the board. You can arrange them however you want, but anyway, all the horse cards should be placed somewhere near the board where all the players can see them. All the players then start with $25, 3 5s, and a 10. So I set up for a 3-player game. Each player has 3 5s and a 10. Next, you'll shuffle your Longshot deck and deal 3 cards to each player. Like so. Each of my players has 3 cards. Then you'll just place the rest of the Longshot cards here where it says Longshot cards on the board. Each player will get 1 reroll token. He'll take out the 2 dice that come with the game. Then each player will roll the 10-sided horse dice, and the highest roller will be first player. The rest players going in clockwise order. Once you've determined turn order, that's it. You're all set up and ready to play. So let's get started with how you play the game. Alright, so on a turn of Longshot, starting with the first player, the player will take any actions on horses that he owns. Now, at the beginning of the game, no players own any horses, but if you did own, for example, this horse at the beginning of your turn, if it has a power here like this one at the beginning of your turn, if Wonderbread, that's this horse, is in the lead by himself, you may draw 1 extra card. So, first thing you do on your turn is any special abilities that are on horses that you own. And as I said at the beginning of the game, nobody owns any horses. Alright, the next thing you do is roll both dice, and then you roll the horse that you roll, or you move the horse that you rolled, in this case number 10. He would move 3 spaces. So you move horse number 10, 1, 2, 3. Now the movement die has a 1 and a 3 possibilities, but there's also a 0. Now if you roll a 0 when you're rolling your horse and move die, then no horse will advance, but if the player who made that roll, if somebody owns that horse, number 10, then they can steal 1 random card from their hand if they rolled a 0. If nobody owns that horse that was rolled when the player rolled a 0, then the player that rolled just gets to draw 1 long shot card into their hand from the long shot deck. Alright, one other thing about movement besides the horse that you rolled, moving the number on the rolled dice, any horses that you own, for example, if a player that rolled this 10-3 owned this horse, last chance number 7, well, if they owned this horse because they rolled a 10, they would also get to move number 7 3 spaces. So if you own any horses when you roll the dice that have the horse that you rolled in their movement bar, you also get to move that horse the same number as the horse you rolled. Now that only happens on your turn. If during somebody else's turn they rolled a 10, you would not get to move number 7, even though that number is in your movement bar. It's only on your turn. So after you've rolled the dice and moved any horses that move from that roll, the next thing you can do on your turn is take one of 4 actions. You can play a card from your hand. So for instance, this one says you could collect $5 and bet it on number 1, and collect and bet $10 if you own horse number 1. And you may place this bet on a horse that is in the no bets area. We'll talk about why that is significant in a minute when we talk about placing bets. But anyway, you can play one card from your hand, or you can buy an unowned horse for the amount shown here. So any horse that's not owned, you could, for instance, you could pay $10 to buy Slow Gen. Then you just take that horse and put it in your play area. You'll notice the horses have different costs, and that is because the horses with the higher cost have more horses in their movement bar, more numbers in their movement bar than horses with a lower cost. For instance, this $10 horse only has 2 numbers in its movement bar, whereas this $20 horse has 4 numbers in its movement bar. And remember how we talked about just a second ago, if it's your turn and you roll the dice, and the number you roll on your horse die is one of these numbers, you also get to move this horse, the number that was rolled on your movement die. Alright, so again, you can play one card from your hand, or you can buy an unowned horse, or you can place a $5 bet on any horse, but it has to be a horse that's not already up in this orange area, which is the no bets area. So as long as a horse has not entered this no bets area, you can take $5 of your money and place a bet on it. And to do that, you just say, I'm going to place it like a $5 bet on number 10. So you take $5, you get one of these number 10 tokens, put the $5 under it, and that shows that money is now bet on horse number 10. So you can't spend that money later to buy a horse or do anything else. That money is now bet on number 10 and can't be used for anything else. Now if you own a horse, like for instance if you own number 9 and you want to take your action to place a $5 bet on number 9, instead of taking a number 9 token, you can just place $5 under your horse card and show you have a bet placed on that horse in that way. So the last possible action you can do is just discard any 2 cards from your hand into the discard pile and collect $5 from the bank for that. So again, the 4 possible actions you have is to play a card from your hand, buy an unowned horse, place a $5 bet on a horse that's not in the no bets area, or discard 2 cards from your hand for $5. Or you can just pass if you don't want to take an action. After you've done that, then you draw a card from the long shot deck into your hand, and then pass the dice to the next player. And so in that manner, players will just continue taking turns in clockwise order until once a horse comes and passes the finish line. So if all these horses were running and this one came here and reached this spot, the start spot again, that's the finish line. First horse to do that would go here in the number 1 spot. The next horse to do that would go here in the number 2 spot, and the third horse here. As soon as the third horse crosses the finish line, that ends the game immediately. So the player whose current turn it is, he just ends his turn right there as soon as the third horse crosses the finish line. At that point, any players that had bets on horses that were not one of the first 3 to cross the finish line, then those bets are discarded to the bank, and they lose that money. So any money bet on a horse that did not win, place, or show is immediately discarded. Then, if a player owned the first place horse, they would collect $100. If a player owned the second place horse, they would collect $75. And if a player owned the third place horse, they would collect $50. Then all bets are paid. You look on the horse card of the horses that came in first, second, or third, and this shows their odds. So if this horse comes in first, it plays 5 to 1. So any players that had bets, if a player had a $5 bet on this horse to come in first, and it came in first, it would pay $25. If a player had a $5 bet on this horse and it came in second, it would pay $15. And if a player had a $5 bet on this horse and it came in third, it would pay $10. So this is how much the odds and how much it pays on first, second, or third, depending on where it placed. So all players, and when you collect your bet, first you pay the money you bet to the bank. So if you bet $5 on this horse and it came in first, you don't keep that money and get the $25. You pay the $5 you bet to the bank, and then you get back your $25 winnings. So again, you go around the board, paying all players any winnings they're due from horses they had bet on that came in first, second, or third. After that's complete, you total up. Each player totals their money, including money they had in hand at the when the third place horse finished. So you total all money you had from winnings, from owning the horse, and money you already had in your hand, and the player with the most money at that point wins the game. And just to mention, any horses that you own that did not win, place, or show, they're worth nothing at the end of the game. The only horses that are worth anything are the ones that came in first, second, or third. And as we already talked about, they would collect $100 for first, $75 for second, and $50 for third. Any horses you own other than that, they just are worth nothing. One thing we haven't talked about is the re-roll token that each player got at the beginning of the game. On your turn, after your initial roll to move horses, you can discard your re-roll token to re-roll one of the dice. So you could either re-roll the horse dice or the movement dice. And that's only on your initial horse roll. That's not if you're doing some roll from a card that you played or something. That doesn't count. It's on your initial horse movement roll on your turn. And again, you only get to re-roll one of the dice, not both of them. And all of that is summarized quite neatly here on these two corners of the board. As you can see, it says on your turn, take all actions according to the horse features on the horses the player owns. Again, that's these actions if you have any. Then roll both dice and move the corresponding horse. Take an action as shown below, either play a card, buy an unowned horse, place a $5 bet on any horse, or discard 2 cards from your hand to collect $5 from the bank. And then after you've done one of those actions, then you draw a card from the long shot pile into your hand. And there's no hand limit on cards. You can have as many cards as you want or as you gather. And then pass the dice to the next player. And one other thing I probably should mention, once a horse has finished, the race, it's already come in first or second. If you happen to, on your turn, roll that horse, when you're on your turn when you're rolling for a horse movement, if you roll a horse that's already moved, you just re-roll that horse dice until you get one that hasn't finished. Alright, so now we'll do a few example turns. So we'll say this player is the first player, so he doesn't own any horses, so he has no actions to take on his horses, so the next thing he does is roll his dice. Alright, was that a 1? Did I move that? Alright, a 1, 1. Okay, now he can take one of the 4 possible actions. He can play one of his cards. And he's just going to, we'll say he's going to buy a horse. And since he moved horse number 1, we'll just say he's going to buy that. So he's got to pay $20 for horse number 1. So there's 10, 15, 20. That goes to the bank, which normally you would just hand it to your banker player. Now he collects the horse number 1 card and puts that in his play area. You don't want $5 under it or it'll look like you bet on it. Alright, that's his action. So now he just draws himself a new long shot card. Alright, so next player in clockwise order is this player. Again, he doesn't own a horse, so there's no actions to do on a horse, so he rolls the dice. He got a 9, 1. So he moves number 9, 1 right there. Now he takes an action. We'll say he wants to buy a horse, but he's only going to buy a $10 horse, so he's going to spend $10, and he will get horse number 4, Slow Jen. Put that in his play area, and then he just draws a card, and that goes into his hand. Alright, now we go to the next player. Again, he doesn't own any horses, so he doesn't have any actions to take, so he just rolls the dice. 1 and a 0. So because the first player owns horse number 1, this player, since he rolled a 0, now gets to take a random card from his hand. So we'll just say he takes this one, adds that to his hand, which that sucks for that player because he would have got more money since he owned horse number 1. But anyway, no horses advance. Now he gets to play his action. And we'll just say he's going to play this card that he just took from the first player. So he gets to collect $5 and bet it on horse number 1. So this goes into the discard pile. He collects $5, but it has to be bet on horse number 1. So we put a little marker under it. And he's done. Now he just draws a card into his hand. That's the end of his turn. Alright, now we're back to the first player. He does own a horse, so he can take that action at the beginning of your turn. If Wonder Bread is in the lead by himself, well, he's not, because he's in the same space as horse number 9. They've both advanced 1, so he's not in the lead by himself, so he doesn't get to draw a card. So now he rolls the dice. So he moves number 2, 1. So 2 moves 1. And because he rolled a 2 and his 1 has the 2 on its movement bar, number 1 will get to move 1 also. Alright, so now he takes an action. So he's just going to play this card, collect $10. He would collect 20 if he owned horse number 4, but he doesn't. So he just plays that, and he collects $10 from the bank. And then he gets to draw a card into his hand. Alright, go to the next player. Alright, there's not really anything he can do with this horse. There's no action that lets him do anything. It's just if this horse comes in third, he collects $50 in addition to the normal 50 that he would get. Alright, so he's going to roll the dice. So it's number 7 advances 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we check his card. Nope, it only has 3 and 10, so number 4 doesn't get to move. And now he gets to take an action. So we'll say he's going to do this one. It says collect $5 and bet it on number 4, but collect and bet $10 if you own this horse. Well, he does own number 4, so he's going to play this card. So he gets to collect $10 and bet it on number 4, so we just slide it on under number 4. Alright, well that was his action to play that card, so now he draws a long shot card into his hand, and that's the end of his turn. Alright, this player doesn't own any horses, so he doesn't have to worry about any horsepower, so he just goes to roll, and he got 5-1, so he moves horse number 5-1, and then he does an action. So maybe he wants to play this card. Choose up to 3 horses not owned by you and not in the no bets area. Advance each horse 1 space. Well, since he has a bet on number 1, he's going to advance that horse 1 space. And then maybe he'll just advance some of these guys that haven't moved at all. So number 3 and number 6. Alright, that ends his turn. So he'll draw a card. And we'll do one more set of turns. Alright, back to the first player. If Wonder Bread is in the lead by himself, again he's not because he's in the same space as number 7. So that power doesn't take effect. So we just go on and roll. And number 7 moves 3. So 1, 2, 3. And he has number 7 on his horse, so number 1 also gets to move 3. So 1, 2, 3. Alright, now he takes an action. I think he's just going to place a $5 bet on number 7. You know, since 7's up there with number 1, just hedges bets. So I don't know why I put that in the bank. He's going to take his $5 that he's going to bet. And put a number 7 token on it. And that's going to be his turn. Oh, you got to draw a card. Alright, that's the end of his turn. Alright, we're to this player. Again, his horse's power doesn't mean anything, so he's just going to roll 7-1. So 7 moves 1. He doesn't have a 7 on his thing. So now he'll just take his action. Since the horse he owns is sharing the last place there, he's going to play this card. Advance all horses in last place 1 space. So discard that, so he gets to move number 4 1 space, number 8 1 space, and number 10 1 space. Alright, that's his action. He played a card, so now he draws a card. Puts it in his pile, and we come to this player. He doesn't own a horse, so he's just going to roll. Alright, he got number 3, 0. Nobody owns number 3, so instead he just gets to draw a card, a long shot card from the deck. And he's done that, so now he's going to take an action. And maybe he wants to buy a horse, so he's going to buy a $20 horse. So 10, 20, and he's going to buy 6 gun, so that goes in his play area. And that's it. Then we go back to the first player. So you can see it's a very easy game, and you just keep taking turns until 3 horses have passed the finish line. Then, as I said in the rules overview, owners of those horses. Now, these players could buy more horses. You're not limited to just owning 1 horse. You can buy as many horses as you want, that you can afford anyway. But anyway, keep playing until 3 horses have finished. Then if anyone owns those horses, they would collect the money, and then you would pay bets. The different horses have different odds. This one pays 6 to 1 if it wins, 4 to 1 if it places, 2 to 1 if it shows. Whereas number 10 plays 9 to 1, pays 9 to 1 if it wins, 8 to 1 if it places, and 6 to 1 if it shows. So they have different odds and pay different amounts. But anyway, that's long shot. It usually plays in about, I'd say, 45 minutes if you're playing with 3 or 4 players. No more than an hour for sure. It's pretty quick. I think it's a good family game. This long shot dice game, I guess it somehow streamlines this game down to more streamlined than it already is. I don't know. It seems like it's pretty streamlined and short as it is, so I'm not sure what the dice game adds. Again, I haven't looked at it, but I've heard people say, "Oh, this replaces the old long shot game." I don't know. I don't know why it needs to be replaced. It's not like it's got a burdensome set of rules or anything. Me and my family like it. Like I said, I've had it for many years. We've played it lots of times. It usually comes out about once a year. Quick, easy, fun game. It can play like up to 8 players, I think. So when you have more players, it kind of makes it more fun. I've never played it with more than 4 players, but anyway, the more players, the more fun it is. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I need to say about Long Shot. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.